Jambo Radio.
So, Keiran, would you mind telling us who you are?
Hiya, I'm Keiran Manchip and I work for an organisation called Archaeology Scotland, and I'm an archaeologist with Archaeologist Scotland.
All right, okay. Keiran, would you mind telling us or telling our listeners what is archaeology?
So archaeology is the study of the human past through objects and buildings and places. So we don't just look at documents, we look at material things and try to understand how people in the past lived and try to understand more about the past of those objects.
All right, okay. And from your own point of view, from your perspective, what do you think archaeology is important today?
Yeah, I think archaeology is really important, and I think one of the most important things about archaeology is it brings people together to look at the past. If you're on a dig site or a survey project, you're meeting new people, you're working with them, you're having a laugh with them, and we're also learning about the past. And I'm really passionate about Scotland's heritage. I think it's important that everybody, no matter where they come from, can all get together and look at it.
All right. So I'm quite curious, Keiran Manchip, how did you get into archaeology?
So when I was younger, I used to watch Time Team a lot.
Time Team, all right, yeah.
You know, the guy off of Blackadder. So yeah, I got into it. Was always interested in it and always liked history. I liked working outside and like going to castles and. So
you've always had a passion for history and that.
Yeah. I've always loved it, and I thought, I was lucky enough to went to do it at uni, and then after that worked for a small archaeology company based in the Borders, and then started working in this job almost exactly 2 years ago. All
right, okay. So you've been in the job just for 2 years only.
Yeah, I finished my masters in 2018. So I've been working in archaeology for 3 years.
And where did you do your masters? Did
Glasgow.
You complete your masters?
Yeah, Glasgow Uni.
Glasgow Uni.
Yeah.
All right. And how long is the course? Archaeology course.
So the undergraduate was 4 years. I did archaeology and history, and then I took a year out and then did a masters, and that was 1 year.
You did archaeology and history at Glasgow University.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. And last time we met at the first Hampden Park archaeology site, you gave us a fascinating story about Hampden and football. Is that something you could let our listeners have a little grasp about it as well?
Yeah. So we were working at the site of the first Hampden Park. So it's it was the first purpose-built international football stadium in the world.
Hampden Park.
The
first, the Hampden Park we know in Scotland.
Yep. So the big one that we all know, where they just played the Euros and stuff.
Okay, yes.
That's the third one.
That's the third one?
Yeah. So the first one, which we were working at, was it's basically underneath the Hampden Bowling Club in Cross Hill. And then the second one is at Cathkin Park, where there's still some ruins of another football stadium there as well.
All right. Would you say football was invented in Scotland in that case?
Yeah. So the football that was played at First Hampden, alongside it being the first purpose-built stadium, so it was the first stadium to have turnstiles. It was the first to have a purpose-built grandstand. So you think about all the football stadiums that come after it. So it was built in 1873.
That's the first in the world?
Yeah, the first one to have that template.
Okay.
So all the stadiums after that basically copy it. So it was built by Queen's Park Football Club, and today's actually Queen's Park.
Queen's Park.
It's their 154th birthday anniversary. They're one of the oldest football club in Scotland, but the way they played football was called combination football, so passing and moving and stuff. Scotland started that, yeah.
So the thing we see Barca doing, it all started in Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Barcelona just copied Scotland from 150 years ago. So that's kind of modern football, isn't it? It's the way we would recognise people playing football, they started it, whereas before it was more kind of rugby. And there was the rules were all different no matter where you played. So sometimes the pitches would be 200 yards long, sometimes 100. But at First Hampden, that's where they started playing modern football. And the players that played there were called Scotch professors. Scotch professors, yeah. And a lot of them went down to England to teach the English how to play football. And
many people have this conception that football came to be in England. So are you of that same opinion as well? That football was invented by the English. That's what many people believe.
Yeah, I mean, people say like, "Oh, it's coming home."
It's like it's coming home. It's coming home. What are your thoughts about it's coming home?
Yeah, if football was coming home, then it'd be coming to Glasgow. I think. Like,
what do you mean? What are you trying to say by if football was coming home, then it has to come to Glasgow first?
Because Hampden Park is what 40 years older than Wembley.
40 years older than
40
Wembley.
years older than Wembley, mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the English FA is mm-hmm. slightly older than the Scottish FA,
mm-hmm.
but in the 1880s,
mm-hmm.
there was 4 different FAs. There was England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland,
mm-hmm.
and 3 out of those 4 were all playing football by the Scottish rules,
mm-hmm.
and then the English then adopt the Scottish rules.
Really?
And
mm-hmm.
yeah, and what England was playing in the 1870s and the early 1880s wasn't really football,
mm-hmm.
as we would understand it. It's passing and moving, and the modern football all kind of started in Glasgow, and Scottish players spread it throughout the world. Some go to Argentina,
mm-hmm.
Uruguay, and take football there. Brazil. Yeah.
So it's fair to say Scotland is the birthplace of football then.
Yeah, I think you could argue that. Like, England's obviously got good football and history and stuff like that, but it's more Scottish than it is English.
It's more Scottish. Okay, Keiran. You spoke about Scotch professors. That's what the players used to be called. And were there any black players at that time that you know of? You are as the archaeologist who does all the findings. Do you think at that time there were any black players who was called a Scotch professor as well?
Yeah, one of the most important ones was black, was Andrew Watson.
Andrew Watson. Can you give us a little background history about Andrew Watson, if you don't mind, Keiran, please?
Yeah, so he's an amazing guy. So he was born in Demerara in British Guyana.
British Guyana?
Yeah.
Okay.
And his dad was Scottish. He was from the Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
And his mum was a local free woman of colour.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he was like 4, he gets sent over with his older sister to England to study, and so his father was quite wealthy. They owned a lot of sugar plantations.
Okay.
So a lot of their money came from the dark side of the British Empire, slave trade and stuff like that.
Slavery and that.
Yeah, a lot of dark history, and a lot of their money came from really quite awful places.
Okay.
But they get sent over to England, and he goes to a private, kind of quite posh school, and he plays a lot of rugby, and he was a really good long jumper and stuff like that. So he's quite an athletic guy.
Okay.
And then he moves to Glasgow when he was 19 to go to Glasgow University to be an engineer.
Yep.
And there he lives in the south side.
South side of Glasgow?
Yeah, on Shields Road.
Shields Road?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it looked a lot different. There would be more tenements and not like the industrial estate and all that kind of stuff. But so it's when he's about 19, he plays for a team called Park Grove, who played in the south side.
Park Grove?
Yeah, and they don't exist anymore. No. But there was also another black player playing for Park Grove. I think he was from West Africa, and there was one of their goalkeepers was half Chinese. So,
half Chinese?
Yeah, you think about that team are probably more diverse than Scottish professional teams in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so he starts playing football, and apparently he picked it up really quickly. So he played as a sort of defender, but they would only play 2 defenders. So he was only one of 2 defenders.
Two centre backs?
Yeah, basically, yeah, and then kind of 2 in front of them, and then 6 attackers and their goalkeeper.
Which is basically impossible in the kind of football that's being played today. 2 centre backs, 2 midfielders, and then 6 in the front. No, that's not the style of football that we see regularly these days. And did he have any siblings, and are they still alive?
So there's no direct descendants. He had 4 kids, I think, but none of them ever had children. But there's a guy, he's a poet from Liverpool, who's his great nephew or something like that. So he does have a sort of descendant that's still alive today, and people sort of try and celebrate his story. He's on the mural at Hampden, First Hampden. And
has he got any monuments, like any statues and anything to remember him?
No statues. There's a mural in Shawlands at a cafe. I can't remember what cafe it is. And then there's the mural in the back of the Hampden Bowling Club. So he's on
the bowling
mural.
club.
Yeah, and recently this year, so he died in London in 1921. So I think he was about 60. It was maybe his mid-60s when he died.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he died without kind of any money or anything, and he was buried in Richmond in a cemetery. And his grave was like quite run down because nobody went to look after it. But this year, people have gone and refurbished his grave and put down a wee plaque so that he's kind of remembered.
Oh, okay, that's still fair enough. And what clubs did he play for in Glasgow?
Yeah, so after he played for Park Grove, he joined Queen's Park.
Queen's Park we know today.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So he joined them. I think it was 1882. So he put
1882.
1882. Yeah. So he would have played at first Hampden for Queen's Park, and he played there for Scotland, and then he moved to a team in London called Corinthians, and they were like one of the best teams in England at the time. But he was brought down there basically to teach them how to play like combination football because they couldn't keep up with the Scottish teams. Yeah, and they couldn't keep up with the teams in the north of England that started to like sneak in professional players because it was illegal to pay players to play football. So, but what used to happen was like the player would be offered a really good job in the town that had the football team, and the guy that ran the business would also run the football team. So like kind of getting paid.
All right. Okay.
So he played for Corinthians, and then he played for Queen's Park again, and he played for a team in Liverpool called Bootle, and I think they went on to like some of their players founded Everton or founded Liverpool. So there's a lot of like connections through there, and then he stopped playing football when he was about 30.
30 years old?
30 years old, yeah. And he went and joined he was in the Merchant Navy. He worked on boats as an engineer.
As an engineer?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Keiran, I met you, before I met you at the dig, I've known you for over I would say over 9 years.
Yeah.
Is it 9 years, approximately 9 years? I remember you and I used to play for United Glasgow under Alan White.
Yeah,
that was like 8-9 years ago.
Yeah.
And to my greatest surprise, I went to the dig and I met you there. Like, what caused this change? What made you divert? When I met you, where it was archaeology something you wanted to do already, because you looked more keen into football.
Yeah, I mean, when I met you, I was before I went to uni. Like when we first started playing football together. But yeah, I sort of always wanted to do archaeology, but I loved playing football. But I wasn't that good. But yeah, I don't know, it was strange like seeing you at the dig. I didn't expect to see you there either. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just kind of, I mean, the chance to get to work on like an archaeology dig, but looking at football in a football stadium was like amazing. I didn't expect I was ever going to be able to do that. And then
away from that, talking about the football style as well. You spoke about Scotland having the best football style in those days, and England. Did Scotland usually beat England during games?
Yeah. Back then they did. They used to. And one of Andrew Watson's, I think it was his first game. He was the captain. And
he used to captain Scotland.
Yeah, in his debut.
During his debut.
Yeah, okay. So he was the first ever black international football captain
for Scotland or in the world.
In the world ever. Yeah, like for any national team.
Andrew Watson.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for Scotland, which is pretty cool. So I think his first game they beat England 6-1 in London. So that's like England's greatest ever defeat.
Wait, that was Scotland beating England 6-1.
Yeah.
Wow. And Andrew Watson was the captain at that time.
Oh, he was the captain, yeah.
All right. Who scored? Did he score, or do you have any? I know you were not. You were not born at the time, but
yeah. I can't remember if he scored for Scotland. Like, I don't know if it was common for defenders to score, but there was one guy who's also on the mural at Hampden Bowling Club. He's called Charles Campbell.
So
he's like one of Scotland's like greatest ever players. He scored. I think he scored in the 6-1 win, and he also scored in the 5-1 win at First Hampden, which is on the back of the mural, and that was in March 1882. And Andrew Watson played in that game as well.
He played there as well?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
But yeah, so Charles Campbell, he was the first player apparently to ever head the ball because they used to wear hats.
Yeah, I remember when you see on the white and black TVs, players used to wear hats and that.
Yeah, so he apparently the ball was up in there and he took his hat off and went and headed it. So he's really famous for doing that.
All right,
he scored
okay.
loads of goals for Scotland, that guy.
And still on the same football note, you hear this guy singing, football, it's coming home, it's coming home. When you think about Scotland beating England back in the days, and today everyone is singing, even some Scottish people singing, it's coming home, it's coming home. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's a catchy song, isn't it? I don't hold it against
it is actually, but
yeah, if Scotland had a song like that, I'd sing it too. But yeah, it's like I think for a long time, like people have just basically England just claimed that they invented football like a long time ago, back in the 1860s and 70s. They were like, no, football's ours, and they've tried to, like, through the history, tried to kind of lie about it.
Okay.
And FIFA and UEFA and stuff still kind of recognise that, well, they see England as the home of football, but it's not strictly true. And I think that what we tried to do with the dig is to actually say, well, look, here's the evidence. Like, this is proof that the stadium was here, and people have studied like players like Andrew Watson and like the impact that they had on football and changing the way football was played. Like, if it wasn't for these guys like Andrew Watson, like, football as we know it might never have existed. We might still be playing football. That's true. Like a version like rugby, we just kick the ball up and elbow people.
That's true. And at the dig, have you found anything yet that could change people's mindset? Because, like I said earlier, people think the birthplace of football is England. Meanwhile, it's from what you're telling me, it's Scotland. So at the dig, have you found anything that could prove otherwise, like change this misconception that the birthplace of football is England?
Yeah.
Have you found anything yet?
Yeah, so we were digging there for a week, and we had this like map from 1879, which was made just before the stadium was demolished. So it kind of showed us roughly where we thought it was. So we were able to like focus where we put our trenches, like where we started digging, and towards the end, we started to find like foundations and lots of bricks, which is quite interesting. But some of the foundations lined up with some below ground scanning that we were doing called geophysics. So we had all these little clues that were sort of telling us, oh, there's something here, and then when we started digging, we found some foundations which we think were part of the enclosure wall. So we went round the stadium. So that first Hampden was the first stadium to have a big kind of wall around it with turnstiles in it, so they could manage who got into the stadium and they could sell tickets and make money rather than people just sneaking in and things like that. So we were able to find that part of it. And on the last day, we found the foundations for the pavilion, like the clubhouse, so where the changing rooms would have been. And that sort of thing, which was what the big thing we were looking for.
Sure.
Because the pavilion is still at the site. It's the Hampden Bowling Club.
The bowling club, yeah.
It's the same building. So that building is what, over 150 years old? 140 years old. That building, and it's one of the the clubhouse is the first like football stadium in the world. If you think about, there's no other building like that anywhere in the world, and it's just sitting in Glasgow. And we found the foundations. So that's kind of what we were looking for.
That's what you were looking for,
like
basically.
That kind of proof, yeah.
All right. Okay. Do you think what can we do? What can you do to change that perspective? That thing that people say, like, football was created in England. Is there anything you personally can do for me who actually thought that football was invented in England? Is there anything you can tell me or show me to change that for me?
Yeah, I mean, if you come back in September when we're digging again, you can get a spade.
I can get a spade myself.
Yeah, and you can find it. We'll show you where it is, and you can find it.
All right, fair enough, Keiran. And what advice would you give a younger person who would want to go into archaeology?
There's lots more. Like, one thing I would say is don't just look at universities. There's other ways to get into archaeology, like college courses and things like that, that you could look into. There's the website's the Chartered Institute for Field Archaeologists. So it's
Chartered Institute for Field Archaeologists.
Yeah, CIFA.
CIFA.
Yeah, so you put that into Google, CIFA, Scotland Archaeology. And they've got up on their website ways of how to get into archaeology. That's not necessarily university.
You mustn't go through uni, get all these qualifications and that.
Well, there's one thing I would say is now there's different ways to get into it, but also like if the university routes what people want to do, then do that because it's really.
But you got in there through university.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so university wise, there's loads of good unis that do archaeology in Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh, but yeah, there's ways to volunteer, especially if you're younger and looking at either doing university or the college way or whatever, that you could volunteer in a dig, get some experience.
What about if you're genuinely interested in archaeology and you don't want to go through uni, neither do you want to go through college? Are there any other paths? Can you just meet someone like maybe Jeff, whom you know? Is it okay to just go to Jeff and meet him and say, okay, Jeff, I want to be an archaeologist. I've not been to uni. I've not been to college. Just show me what to do. Maybe more like an apprenticeship, if you want to put it that way.
I think they're trying to develop things like that. But people like Jeff and the Society...
And the Society,
Yeah, like they're... And Archaeology Scotland, like the reason our two kind of organisations exist is to like, show people archaeology and make archaeology more accessible. So if people wanted to contact Archaeology Scotland or Jeff at the Society, then we're always there to help and offer advice. And if we've got any digs coming up that people want to volunteer on and come along and just try it and see if you like it, then there's loads of different opportunities for that.
All right. So apart from that, just anyone can be an archaeologist, whether you're male, female, or just anyone. Because when I think about archaeology, I think about there are more males in archaeology than females. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, when I was at uni, there was more females than males. So it's like, archaeology is quite balanced in that way. It's not like the most diverse, like ethnically or whatever. It's like quite. British, like mostly white folks, Americans.
I know, American with a big white beard, trying to,
but like anyone can be an archaeologist, and archaeology would be better off if it was more diverse and had more people from different backgrounds.
More people.
People have get more different experiences in life with different ideas about things. I think archaeology would be better off.
Have you seen any black archaeologists in Scotland yet? Just yet? Probably in during your time at uni, in your classroom, were there any black guys or
no? I don't
females.
Think so. No, I don't think so.
Not at all.
No.
So since you started working 2 years ago, you've not even come across any black person who's an archaeologist in Scotland just yet.
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't think so. No.
All right. Okay. That's one of the reasons why we invited you here, to create awareness for people, especially in our communities, African and Caribbean communities, for them to know that archaeology is a pathway for a career job as well. So, what's gonna encourage some of our people is this. What is the salary range? Is it okay? Is he okay? Is the salary range okay?
That depends.
If you don't mind me asking, anyways.
It's okay. Like I think if you're like a trainee, like numbers wise, like I think some traineeships it's like 17,000 a year, up to 18, and then getting up to like 21, sometimes more depending on what you do. So it's not. Compared to it's kind of why I mentioned the university thing. Like compared to other like careers that if you go to university, like the salary's probably quite low.
If you're still at university.
Yeah, so if you go to university and get a degree and then want to go and work something, and say you were picking between like a business degree and an archaeology degree, like you earn more money doing business. But archaeology, like the money's enough, but it's like you get to travel. You get to travel a lot. Yeah. With my own job.
What are the advantages of being an archaeologist?
if you like history and you like working outside, it makes you happy. So yeah, work's not all about money, but it does.
No, it's not
helps,
about money.
obviously.
It's about passion as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of archaeologists like to do it. You have to be quite passionate because you can be working outside in the rain quite a lot. Although not all of archaeology is outdoor archaeology. Some people specialise in finds, so the more kind of scientific side of things. So, say if we found some bits of pottery or whatever, they would analyse the residue on the inside of the pottery, and you'd be able to like find out what they were using the pot to cook, what was in the pot or the cup or whatever. So there's loads of different kind of aspects of archaeology that people can specialise in, which makes it quite good because it's quite varied. You can go off and do loads of different things.
All right,
work in different countries too.
Work in different countries. Since you became an archaeologist, have you travelled to other places apart from Scotland?
I worked in Cyprus for a couple of weeks.
In Cyprus?
With mould job, yeah. And then I left that one. I maybe could have done more stuff over there. But yeah, it was really good. It was really
all right. Have you've not been to Egypt, no? To see the pyramids, pharaohs, and have a little dig there and that?
No, not yet. Maybe one day. I've got friends that have been to like Egypt, Sudan, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Turkey. Yeah, all over the place.
There's another interesting question I wanted to ask you. If you go to the museums here in Scotland, you'll see stuff that was taken from all the places in the museums here. Yeah. But my question is, I'm wondering, if you went to Cyprus, if you went to Cyprus today for a little dig, and you found something very historical, are you just allowed to just take it with you to Scotland and just put in one museum here, or there's a process, or there's a procedure to follow? Yeah,
so there'd be a procedure, so it wouldn't come back to Scotland.
It won't come back to Scotland, even though you as a Scottish person discovered it, where you're discovering it in another man's land, in another country.
Yeah, because things are a bit different now from when
they used to just go and take stuff, you know.
Yeah. So luckily, things are a bit better, and museums are better about trying to, send things back to their country of origin, and because they were basically stolen there in the first from
the onset. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we were to go to Cyprus and
find something,
do a dig, it would be like the Cypriot museum and all that would look after it. So the finds would probably go there. Or if they were going to come back to Britain for like some specialist analysis, they might come back. Yeah. And then go back. And they go back.
Then you, as an archaeologist who found it, what credit do you get? As a founder, as a person who discovered whatever you discovered, what credit do you get?
Yeah, you wouldn't really get much, I don't think. Like, people would know, they'd be like, oh, you found that. But, well, other archaeologists would know, maybe, that were working with you. But in terms of the public ever finding out, not unless you've got on, like, the radio or the telly or something. All right. Yeah, there's not a lot of, like, fame, I don't think.
You don't become famous and all that, no?
No, I don't think so. But it depends what you find.
It depends.
Like, if you find something...
Let's say, for example, you find a gold coin.
Yeah. Just one gold coin?
Just one.
Nah.
You need to find a whole treasure.
Yeah, you got to find probably a few hundred.
Let's say a skull. A human skull. That's maybe, let's say, 2,000 years old.
Yeah, they get found quite a lot. So, yeah, you might need to be, I don't know, like a big burial that was special in some way, that was different from all the other ones that were 2,000 years old. So you find like something really unique with, I don't know, probably with like a lot of gold or something that people go, that's amazing. That's
nice.
Yeah.
That's Keiran. All right, Keiran, before we round up, is there any other thing that you want to tell the audience, something that I've not maybe asked yet? So is there any other thing you would like to tell the African and Caribbean audience about archaeology that I've not mentioned just yet?
Yeah, well, we were talking about ways to get into archaeology. One thing that we are running, like the Hampden dig is part of, is it's our Archaeology Scotland's New Audience project. So we've got funding from Historic Environment Scotland to do this project. So we're working with people like displaced people from sort of refugee or asylum seeker backgrounds, or people that have been marginalised in any way by the pandemic, and people that have never tried archaeology before.
I've never tried archaeology.
Or maybe you felt like archaeology is not for them, or there's boundaries. So yeah, people from the Afro-Caribbean community maybe that thought, archaeologists just a bunch of old white dudes cutting about the space.
True though.
It's that's an image of archaeology that it's hopefully going to start changing, because it's the important thing about archaeology is for everybody.
It's for everyone
that wants to do it. And so we've got funding to sort of open up opportunities. If you want to come volunteering or whatever, then they can just speak to us and we can help them with opportunities, or we can run some workshops or whatever. And we're going back to Hampden in September, the end of September, so the second last week of September or something. So we'll be back digging there for about a week, and there'll be loads of opportunities for people to come down and have a go at digging. Learn more about archaeology, like what's it actually look like, what's the kind of job look like, meet some of us, and we can maybe offer a bit of advice or whatever.
All right, fair enough. All right, so if a lay person, just someone out there who's from African or Caribbean background, wants to get in touch, what are the ways that they can get in touch with you?
So we've got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Twitter's probably the best, but people check the social media accounts. So we're Archaeology Scotland. Just go on Twitter and just type in Archaeology Scotland. Yeah, or on Google, and our website will come up.
All right, okay, you got a website as well.
Yeah.
And is there an application form or something?
We've got a contact us, so you can email the info. I think it's info@archaeologyscotland.co.uk, and that will get you through to somebody, and you can speak to us directly. That's probably the best way. Or contacting us on social media. Either or is pretty good.
All right, and you said it's open for anyone from the African and Caribbean background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're a refugee, asylum seeker, or whatever you are, you can still apply for it.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got funding to help with transport,
with transportation and everything.
Yeah, if you go through the asylum process, can't work or whatever. So we've got funding to help people access, get to the site, and protective sturdy boots and all that, so you don't wreck your trainers or whatever. So we can help in whatever way we can to help people get down to the site. All right,
okay. Thank you very much, Keiran. And again, once more, thank you for accepting our request, accepting our invitation on Jambo Radio. I know you have a really busy schedule, but you tried and found time to come here and answer our questions, and I really thank you for that. And hopefully I'll see you here some other time.
Yeah,
whenever you find something nice during a dig, then probably I'll still get in touch for you to come and tell us what you found.
Yeah, and if you keep follow us on social media, whatever, it's probably the best way to keep track.
All right, what social medias can we follow you on? What platforms?
Archaeology Scotland Twitter is probably the best. That's where we send out most of what we're up to, what we're finding, the different sites we're going to see, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, and thanks very much for having me on. It's been really good fun.
No worries. Keiran Manchip, thank you very much for accepting our invitation on Jambo Radio Scotland, and hopefully
on the World Wide Web, on your mobile phone, and on all social media platforms. Jambo Radio.